Your e-bike may be legal in one state and a problem in the next. That is the part most dealers do not explain clearly. The law does not only look at whether your bike has pedals, it can also look at motor power, top speed, throttle use, rider age, helmet rules, where you ride, and whether the bike has been modified. And in some places, the rules are getting stricter fast. A setup that feels normal to you may need registration, insurance, a license, or may be blocked from certain roads, trails, or public areas. That is why this list matters. We are not looking at random rules. We are looking at 5 places where e-bike owners are most likely to get surprised by the law. Before you ride again, make sure your setup is not the one getting legally targeted like a motorcycle. Number 5. Alaska. Your e-bike is treated like a motorcycle. Alaska classifies e-bikes as motorcycles. That is right. In the eyes of state law, your electric bicycle is a motor vehicle that requires all the same credentials as riding a Harley-Davidson. Alaska has no statewide e-bike statute or adopted 3-class framework. Following the governor's 2023 veto of House Bill 8, no override was taken up in later legislative sessions. What this means is that Alaska never established the standard Class 1, 2, and 3 system that most other states use to differentiate between different types of e-bikes. So, what does this mean for you? The state requires adult riders to obtain a standard M1 motorcycle license to ride. You need to take a written test, a vision test, and pass a rigorous road skills examination just as you would for a highway legal motorcycle. The age requirements are highly strict. Riders between 14 and 15 years old need specialized parental consent documentation filed with the state to obtain a restricted M2 permit. Any rider under the age of 18 must hold an instruction permit for 6 months prior to being fully licensed. But adult riders can test immediately. Alaska requires all e-bike riders to wear heavy-duty helmets that meet federal safety standards. State laws establish that anyone riding an electric bike upon a public roadway must wear a protective helmet that strictly complies with the standards of the United States American National Standards Institute. The legal definition Alaska uses is incredibly broad. Because the state lacks a specific definition for e-bikes, they automatically default to the broad motorcycle category. Notice that this does not distinguish between pedal assist and throttle bikes. It does not matter if your bike only assists when you pedal or if it has a thumb throttle. To Alaska, they are all regulated motorcycles. What makes this particularly challenging is trail access. E-bikes are typically prohibited on non-motorized trails in state parks and federal land. Motorized trail access requires following ATV and OHV rules. This means that many of the scenic trails that make Alaska such an appealing place for outdoor recreation are completely off limits to e-bike riders unless they follow the exact same rules as heavy all-terrain vehicle operators. Recent investigations into Alaskan trail management reveal a confusing patchwork. State parks explicitly allow Class 1 e-bikes on some trails open to bicycles unless posted closed. However, this creates an enforcement nightmare where state parks might allow certain e-bikes, but the state government still treats the vehicle itself as a motorcycle for licensing purposes the moment the tires touch the pavement. The practical impact is severe. Tourists who bring e-bikes to Alaska for recreational riding face citations if they do not hold proper motorcycle licensing. Residents who thought they were buying a simple bicycle alternative find themselves navigating the exact same licensing bureaucracy required for traditional motorcycles. Unlike many regions moving toward more permissive legislation, Alaska appears to be sticking with this restrictive approach. Number 4. Massachusetts. The local ordinance trap. Massachusetts completely overhauled its approach to e-bikes, and the current legal landscape is catching thousands of riders off guard. For years, riders operated under a confusing loophole, but while the state did pass a critical law in August 2022 that formally defined Class 1 and Class 2 e-bikes to exempt them from license requirements, the way local municipalities and state agencies have responded has created a fragmented regulatory system. If you own a Class 3 e-bike in Massachusetts, you are operating in a highly restricted, heavily penalized gray area. Recent state legislation, including the 2026 Ride Safe Act, has attempted to fold Class 3 e-bikes into standard bicycle laws. But the ground reality is a fragmented regulatory mess. Under the strict definitions enforced by the Department of Conservation and Recreation, or DCR, your Class 3 e-bike, the one that assists up to 28 miles per hour, is explicitly banned from almost all state-managed off-street paths, rail trails, and multi-use greenways. But here is the brutal truth about riding in Massachusetts right now. Even if your e-bike is a perfectly legal Class 1 or Class 2 model, local towns have aggressively weaponized municipal ordinances to ban them entirely from specific areas. A recent investigative report tracking municipal bylaws across the state found that a bike that is 100% legal to ride in one Massachusetts community will result in a heavy citation the moment you cross the town line. The complete lack of unified state-level enforcement means local police departments are interpreting the 2022 and 2026 legal updates differently. Some jurisdictions aggressively ticket riders on bike paths, while others completely ignore them. This creates a severe trap for commuters who travel through multiple towns. You could start your morning commute in a town where your e-bike setup is celebrated, ride through a jurisdiction where it is heavily restricted, and arrive at your destination in a municipality where local ordinances classify your specific throttle setup as an illegal motorized vehicle on all pedestrian ways. The enforcement reality surrounding trail access is particularly aggressive. Because the DCR manages vast networks of rail trails and state parks, their blanket prohibition of Class 3 bikes means you are restricted to riding alongside high-speed vehicular traffic. Furthermore, the state mandates strict age restrictions. No one under the age of 16 is permitted to operate a Class 3 e-bike on any public way. If a 15-year-old is caught riding a Class 3 model, law enforcement has the full authority to issue citations and impound the bicycle. Retailers are also feeling the immense pressure of these regulations. Bike shops are now required to affix prominent, permanent labels detailing the specific classification, top assisted speed, and motor wattage of every single e-bike they sell. Number 3. Pennsylvania, the 100-pound cargo trap. Pennsylvania presents a massive variation on restrictive e-bike laws that creates heavy headaches for buyers. Pennsylvania strictly enforces a harsh maximum weight limit of 100 pounds. While this sounds trivial compared to standard e-bike classifications in other states, it creates its own unique legal trap for unsuspecting utility riders. The 100-pound limit completely ignores the reality of modern cargo and fat tire bikes. This means that many heavy-duty e-bikes that are perfectly legal in most other states lose their bicycle status entirely in Pennsylvania. Cargo e-bikes are designed and manufactured globally to carry heavy loads and passengers. These bikes are incredibly popular with commuters because the sturdy frames make them significantly more practical for longer distances and help families safely replace car trips on busy roads. But in Pennsylvania, crossing that 100-pound limit pushes these bikes directly out of legal e-bike territory. The core problem is that the global e-bike manufacturing industry does not build bikes specifically for Pennsylvania. Most riders do not realize their standard heavy cargo bike exceeds Pennsylvania's state limits. The bike might have been purchased legally in another state, or the rider might have assumed that standard e-bike classifications only cared about motor wattage. But Pennsylvania's unique 100-pound cap means that standard cargo bikes violate the e-bike statute the second the tires touch the pavement. Once an e-bike exceeds 100 pounds, Pennsylvania reclassifies it as a motor-driven cycle. While police are not setting up roadside scales, this creates a hidden liability trap if you are ever in an accident, as insurance companies can argue you were driving an unregistered motor vehicle. This creates particular problems for local bike shops and major online retailers. A cargo e-bike that is legal to sell in 49 other states becomes a massive liability the moment it crosses into Pennsylvania. Retailers need to be acutely aware of Pennsylvania's unique weight limit to avoid selling non-compliant bikes to residents, which has led to widespread confusion for buyers needing utility models. The weight limit also severely restricts bike modification. Many e-bike enthusiasts enjoy customizing their bikes, adding heavy steel racks or upgrading batteries for better range. But any modification that pushes a bike beyond 100 pounds strips its legal bicycle status in Pennsylvania, even if the exact same modification would be perfectly legal just across the border in neighboring states. Trail access becomes highly complicated because Pennsylvania's weight limit does not align with standard trail management practices used nationwide. Most trail systems across the country use the standard 3-class system to determine which e-bikes are allowed. But heavy Pennsylvania e-bikes do not fit neatly into these standard categories, causing confusion for park rangers and trail management authorities. Law enforcement officers investigating an incident can easily use the bike's factory shipping weight to issue citations. Number 2. Hawaii. The mandatory registration bureaucracy. Hawaii's e-bike laws create a completely unique set of challenges that stem from the state's tight infrastructure and strict regulatory environment. For years, there has been a massive misconception that Hawaii requires a standard driver's license for all e-bikes. While that specific rumor is false, the actual reality of riding in Hawaii is heavily burdened by government red tape, mandatory fees, and strict vehicle definitions that catch thousands of riders off guard. In Hawaii, your e-bike is regulated under a highly specific low-speed electric bicycle definition. To legally qualify under this definition, your bike must have fully operable pedals, an electric motor of less than 750 watts, and a maximum top speed on a paved level surface of no more than 20 miles per hour. If your bike meets these strict requirements, you do not need a driver's license. But here is the major catch. You are legally required to register that e-bike with the local county government and pay a mandatory permanent registration fee of $30. This mandatory registration requirement is heavily enforced. If you're caught riding an unregistered e-bike on any public road, bike path, or state property, law enforcement can issue immediate citations. Furthermore, Hawaii state law dictates that absolutely no one under the age of 15 is permitted to operate a low-speed electric bicycle registered under this framework. But what happens if your e-bike exceeds that strict 20-mile-per-hour limit? This is where the legal trap closes on high-end bike owners. If your e-bike goes 21 miles per hour, or if you own a standard Class 3 e-bike that assists up to 28 miles per hour, Hawaii completely strips away your bicycle status. In the eyes of Hawaiian law enforcement, any e-bike capable of exceeding 20 miles per hour is instantly legally reclassified as a moped or a motor scooter. Once your bike is classified as a moped, the laws become aggressively restrictive. You are suddenly required to possess a valid driver's license. You must obtain specialized safety inspections, display a mandatory physical license plate on the rear of the bike, and strictly adhere to laws that forbid mopeds from utilizing pedestrian walkways or dedicated bicycle lanes. This means that a standard commuter e-bike, completely legal on bike paths in most mainland states, is banished to riding in heavy, fast-moving vehicle traffic on Hawaiian highways. This strict 20-mile-per-hour threshold creates massive operational headaches for Hawaii's massive tourism industry. The industry heavily promotes e-bike rentals as an eco-friendly way to explore the islands. Number 1. New Jersey. The complete licensing and insurance revolution. New Jersey implemented the most dramatic change in e-bike laws in the history of the United States. New Jersey has passed a 2026 law that effectively abolished the standard 3-tier classification system by reclassifying all fast and throttle-controlled e-bikes as motorized bicycles with heavy licensing, registration, and insurance requirements. This is not just a minor regulatory adjustment. New Jersey completely destroyed the three-class system that most states use and replaced it with a comprehensive, highly expensive, bureaucratic system that treats many e-bikes exactly like gas-powered mopeds. Let's break down exactly what New Jersey now requires, because the nuance is critical and heavily enforced. The law splits electric bikes into two vastly different categories. If you own a strictly pedal-assist, low-speed electric bicycle, what used to be known as a Class 1 bike, you are required to register the bike and hold either a driver's license or a specific e-bike license. However, if you own a throttle-assist bike or a high-speed model capable of 28 miles per hour, previously known as Class 2 and Class 3, you are now legally operating a motorized bicycle. For these throttle and high-speed riders, the legal requirements are overwhelming. Riders 17 and older need a standard driver's license, while 15 and 16-year-olds need a specific motorized bicycle license. All of these e-bikes must be formally registered with the New Jersey Motor Vehicle Commission. The first year of registration is free, but it puts your name and home address firmly in the government vehicle database. But here is the kicker that makes New Jersey the most hostile state for e-bikes in the entire United States. If you fall into that throttle or high-speed category, mandatory liability insurance is absolutely required for operation. New Jersey is the first and only state requiring dedicated e-bike insurance policies for throttle riders. You must legally carry liability minimums of $35,000 for personal injury per person, $70,000 for personal injury per accident, and $25,000 for property damage. Your standard homeowner's policy will not cover it. Neither will your standard auto policy. You need a dedicated specialized insurance plan. This means thousands of e-bike riders are now forced to purchase separate, highly specific insurance policies just to legally ride to the local grocery store. This adds massive ongoing monthly or annual costs to e-bike ownership that simply do not find counterparts in any other state. The licensing requirements to even get to that point are extensive. You must possess a valid driver license or e-bike permit. You must pass comprehensive knowledge and vision tests just to validate your permit. Then, you must schedule an official road test. You have to practice operating the e-bike, completely unsupervised and restricted to daylight hours, for 20 days. Upon passing your road test, you obtain your e-bike license at an official Motor Vehicle Commission licensing center. Think about the economic barrier this creates. If you are 15 or 16 years old and want to ride a throttle e-bike to your part-time job in New Jersey, you need to navigate the exact same grueling bureaucratic process as getting a full motorcycle license. The enforcement is deeply serious. The state offered a grace period through July 19, 2026, to obtain the required licenses, register the e-bike with the Motor Vehicle Commission, and purchase the mandatory liability insurance identification card. After July 19, 2026, operating without the required license, registration, or insurance results in heavy compounding fines. You are legally required to carry all three documents when you ride: your physical license, your registration paper, and your physical proof of insurance card.